The Craft Pure Trail boasts some pretty impressive features like this super breathable upper, CR foam midsole, aggressive outsole with rock plate. Craft also claims it gives runners best in-class performance and comfort, but does it really do that? Let's find out. Well, hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. First, I want to let you know that Craft did send the Pure Trail to me to review. They're not going to see this ahead of time. They're not going to preview this footage. I'm going to release it. You're going to see it, and I'm going to share my honest thoughts just like always. First, let's start off with the stats of the Pure Trail. It is a neutral trail running shoe. There is a fair amount of flexibility this way, but if I twist it, it has a little rigidity to it, but it does twist with a little bit of strength in there also because of that rock plate. As for the stack height of the Pure Trail, for the men, it's 36 millimeters in the rear, 30 millimeters in the front for a 6 millimeter drop. For women, it's going to be 35 millimeters in the rear and 29 millimeters in the front, again for that same 6 millimeter drop. And for the weight, my men's size 11 weighed in 11.7 ounces or 332 grams. Now that is certainly not a lightweight for a men's size 11 trail shoe. However, just for reference, it is the exact same weight as the Hoka Mafate Speed 4. However, when running, this does feel lighter underfoot. As for the fit of the Pure Trail, Craft does say this runs a little bit small, so they actually recommend sizing up a half a size. I went with my normal men's size 11, and for me, it feels maybe just a little bit shorter in the length of the shoe, but overall, it still fits really, really well. It is Craft's regular fit, which they say is snug in the heel and the midfoot to give you a superior lock-in, with the forefoot being a little bit wider for some more comfort. I may disagree with that. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that in just a minute. Hey, before we get to the rest of the details of the Pure Trail, do me a favor, scroll down, click that thumbs up button, give the video a like. It really does help out a lot. While you're down there, go ahead and click that subscribe button as well. You'll see more content like this in the future. Moving on to the upper of the Pure Trail, it is a single layer TPU mesh material that is very lightweight, flexible, and durable. The upper is made of 93% mesh and 7% of that TPU. It feels a little bit like Hoka's Matrix uppers. However, it's not quite as rigid or stiff. You can see it definitely moves and is a little bit more flexible than the Hoka Matrix upper. Regarding the breathability of that upper, let's take a look at the tissue test. You can see when I flipped the hairdryer on low, the tissue came up fairly quickly and stayed up. When I switched that hairdryer to high, the tissue went up very quickly, really showing that this is a very breathable upper. Actually, if you hold it up to the light, you can see straight through this upper very, very well. Like, it is certainly a very breathable shoe, and when running, it feels like it. I ran in cold temperatures just the other day, and my feet were pretty cold because I could feel that airflow coming through. It is definitely a very breathable trail shoe that would be right at home in a hot environment. The toe box of the Pure Trail is really quite roomy, and honestly, for my average to narrow size foot, it might be a little bit too roomy. If you take a look, you can see what my foot looks like. And for me personally, there's a little bit of slop or a room for my forefoot to move around in that toe box. So maybe just a little bit big for my size foot. There is a really thin TPU toe cap that goes all the way around the shoe here, kind of an overlay. Really, I think that is solely for a little bit of structure to that upper, because if you hit a rock, you're gonna feel it. I did that unfortunately a couple times and I could feel that in my big toe. There is a little bit of a rubber toe cap in the front for a little bit of protection, but if you hit off over here in the side, you're gonna feel it. The midfoot of the upper is really, roomy as well. I didn't have any issues with it being a little bit too narrow, any pinching, hot spots. It fit, quite well for, again, my narrow to average size foot. Really, my biggest issue with this entire upper is there's a lot of it. It's just a whole lot of upper material. It's made for a very voluminous foot, and that's clearly not my foot. You can see that these two sides of the upper are practically touching. I have to cinch these laces so incredibly tight that it's really almost touching. There's probably a 1/4 inch of a gap right there at the front. So if you have a very wide foot or a very voluminous foot, this is probably going to be very nice for you. But for somebody that has a more narrow, less voluminous foot, it's probably going to be a little too much upper. As for the tongue on the Craft Pure Trail, it is very, very thin. I mean, really, there is no padding whatsoever on this upper. There is some mesh and also some TPU material on this to give a little bit of protection, maybe. But for me, really, I mean, you can see I had to cinch these laces down so incredibly tight to try to get a lockdown in this shoe that it really caused some issues for my foot. There's no protection in this tongue at all. With those laces being tied so tight, I could really feel it digging into the top of my foot, and it was quite uncomfortable and really kind of painful on about a 6-hour run. I should note that the tongue is not gusseted on either side, and the laces are the lay flat variety that stayed tied very well, did not come untied. What I found odd is when the shoe came to me, this upper eyelet was not laced at all, and it was down here, which is incredibly low. So I went ahead and laced it through the upper to try to get a little bit better lockdown, but we'll get to more of that in just a second. One thing I would love to see an improvement on this shoe, if you're listening craft in the future, give us some padding. Give us a little bit of padding in that tongue, and that would be a huge improvement. In the rear of the shoe here at the heel collar, it is decently padded. It's certainly not plush, but it's enough to provide comfort. Again, on like a 25-mile, 6-hour run I did where I was pacing my friend at the Pinhoti 100, I had no issues with discomfort, no hot spots, no rubbing, no Achilles rub at all from this the rear of the shoe here. The heel counter, as you can see, is incredibly flexible. I mean, there's pretty much no structure to it except for these overlays. But again, it's pretty comfortable and I had no issues there. As for that snug feel that Craft claims in the heel, it was okay. I would say my biggest issue with this entire upper overall is the lockdown. I just could not get a good secure lockdown with the shoe without tying those laces so incredibly tight that it caused discomfort and pain on the top of my foot. So I really would like to see not so much upper material, give us some padding on the tongue, and then it's probably going to be a really solid upper. The midsole of the Pure Trail is Craft's CR foam, which is a supercritical foam. It is very lightweight, responsive, and sustainable, but on top of that, there's actually an Ortho-Lite insole, which adds just a little bit of another layer of protection and comfort for your foot. So the CR foam in this midsole feels very good underfoot when running. If you want to pick up those paces, you want to do some speed work, you can certainly do that with the shoe. There is some energy return, there is some responsiveness, some pushback to the shoe. However, it also has a great amount of cushioning and it gives you comfort on those really long days in the mountains. Now, I wouldn't say it feels as cushioned as, say, the Hoka Mafate Speed 4. However, it feels really nice. When I was pacing my buddy at Pinhoti, we were out there for 6 hours. I didn't have any fatigue of my feet running on a lot of gravel over a lot of rocks. I felt comfort and felt good. And it also felt very stable over that technical terrain. There was a lot of rocks on the Pinhoti Trail, and this felt pretty darn stable. Really, the only issue I had on uneven terrain with this midsole or the shoe is really due to the upper being so voluminous that my foot kind of slid around inside a little bit and left me feeling a little less than secure. I will say too that the midsole actually feels pretty dense, like pushing my thumb in there, a little durometer test, it's very, very dense. So maybe after a few more miles, this might loosen up a little bit and feel a little more comfortable potentially. But right now, as is, it does feel very comfortable, and I've got no issues taking this on a 25-mile run, maybe even a 50K, a 50-mile race. Would I take it on a 100-mile run though? I don't know if I would, honestly. Another cool thing about the Pure Trail is there's actually an integrated rock plate in that midsole, or kind of under the midsole before we get to the outsole here. It's a TPU engineered material that has these interlocking lateral and medial cutaways for a little bit more flexibility and stability on the trail, and it works really well. You can see the rock plate is this purple material you can see through the outsole, and it actually extends all the way back to about this part of the shoe, so kind of the midfoot forward in the shoe. Some folks out there have claimed to feel a little bit of propulsion from this rock plate as well. I'm not so sure about that. There is definitely a little flexion right there, kind of where that rock plate ends. But I don't really feel that propulsion that some people claim. However, maybe it does, and maybe that's why it does feel so light underfoot, even though it weighs 11.7 ounces. The outsole of the Pure Trail is Craft's contact rubber, and as you can see, there really isn't any exposed midsole foam just about anywhere on this shoe. There is a very little bit poking through that you can see in the rear of the shoe here, some small, very small cutaways. But again, it's not really on the forefoot or the midfoot where you're going to be making a lot of that contact, where those rocks could poke through. So you have a lot of protection from this midsole. There's a lot of rubber. The lugs are 4 millimeters and they're multi-directional. As you can see, they kind of go all over the place, and it really provides really, really solid traction. So I've tested the Pure Trail now on dry, kind of loose, gravelly, buffed out trails here in Colorado. I've tested them on snowy, hard packed snow, little ice trails as well, and also the pine forests of Alabama on the Pinhoti Trail. Over all those surfaces, they felt very confidence-inspiring, plenty of grip. Really, I was honestly pretty surprised. Those pine forest trails there in Alabama, those pine needles can be pretty darn slippery, surprisingly, and yet these would dig in and did very well. Even over the snow and the really hard-packed, kind of icy type trails, I had plenty of confidence to send it downhill at a pretty fast speed with these, so I've been very impressed with the grip of this outsole. Now, one area I have not been able to test these is on like wet rock or wet pressure treated surfaces, aside from the snow. So if you're gonna be on a trail that has any of those elements, you might wanna be careful as you approach those just to see how they react. When you're running on really hard packed, buffed out trails, or even a little bit of, maybe you gotta do a couple miles of paved surface, these really wide, kind of broad contact patches of this contact rubber outsole do not feel obtrusive. You don't feel them poking through that midsole. It's really pretty comfortable. So I wouldn't really be concerned with taking these kind of road to trail either. I think it'd be pretty fine in that type of situation. As for the wear and durability of this outsole, I've got, about 40 miles in them so far, and they look really good. I'm not really seeing any wear, and I have worn these on some pretty rocky terrain, a little bit of pavement here and there. So I really would expect this outsole to last quite a while. Overall, this outsole provides excellent protection and traction on a variety of surfaces. I think it really might be a little bit of overkill for this shoe right now, at least with this upper, because the issues with the upper really make me want to use this shoe only on buffed out trails or maybe even like a gravel dirt road. But man, it's just solid grip. Really, really performs very well. As for the price of the Craft Pure Trail, right now they retail for $169.99. However, if you do sign up for Craft's email list, if you go to their page, you can actually get a coupon for 15% off your first order. So that'd be pretty cool. By the way, look below in the description. There is a link to go to Craft's website where you can purchase these. It does help support the channel, but it doesn't cost you anything. Well, the bottom line of the Craft Pure Trail is this is a fun, energetic shoe that provides plenty of protection and comfort. There are lots of things about the Pure Trail that I like a lot, like this super, super breathable upper. This midsole is very comfortable, and the grip from this contact rubber, it's awesome. However, the issues with this upper really make me not want to use this shoe a lot on uneven technical trails where I've got to worry about my foot moving around, because it's just, I cannot get a good secure fit. I cannot get those laces tied really well without hurting my foot. So if Craft can fix those issues, give us a little bit of padding in the tongue. This upper, make it not so voluminous. Not everybody has a very voluminous foot. If they can fix those issues, I really think Craft would have a really serious contender for the trails in the Pure Trail. Now I want to know what you think of the Pure Trail. Have you tried these? What did you think? Did you have any issues with the upper like I did? What did you think of the midsole, the outsole? Well, let us know below in the comments. I would really appreciate it. I know everybody else would too. Now, a shoe that I think is pretty similar to the Pure Trail as far as some of that energetic return, that responsiveness that the shoe has, is the Hoka Tecton X2. So take a look at that full review on your screen over here. Again, kind of similar in nature. But thank you all for watching. I do appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.